Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Into the Pit. And I have Mr. Alan Steinfeld here with me. He is an author of a book called Making Contact. And we're going to talk about all of our favorite subjects, which will be the paranormal, including UFOs, aliens, Bigfoot, ghosts. And I've found a correlation between all of them myself, and I just wanted your opinion on it. But just tell us a little bit about yourself before we get kicked off.
Right. Well, let's see. I've always been interested in things that were unusual, otherworldly. I had early out of body experiences when I was young growing up. So opened me up to a world that nobody was really talking about. I had to really look for this. My first influence was the program in New York, Long John Neville. Did you ever hear of him?
Mm-mm.
He was the first late night paranormal show that talked about all this weird stuff, UFOs, time travel. So I found a kind of alternative audience for what I was experiencing and felt was true. And no one was saying you can find it in religion, you can find it in history, psychology. They all kind of negated this other world, this paranormal world, which for me and you, Kyle, it's a reality. It's as much a part of what we see. At its existence is as real as anything else. It's just we don't have a place for it. So my job, I started a program called New Realities, which was trying to place these unusual events within the context of a bigger worldview.
Was that show Coast to Coast?
No, that was another show. Coast to Coast is still happening. That's George Norrie, Art Bell. Art Bell was really an innovator, picking up on the late night themes of paranormal. But no, Coast to Coast is still like probably the biggest, I wouldn't even call it a podcast, a radio show talking about these ideas with the biggest audience. So that's the flagship of this movement. So, I wanted to figure out the world because it didn't make sense. And, I didn't feel like I like my family, great people, very kind people, but I didn't feel like I belonged. And, I started to read a lot of science fiction. Science fiction was a great, in a way, lifesaver because there were concepts that just woke me up to life on other planets, was telepathic communication. Science fiction is a great genre for evolution. So that was part of my beginnings.
Now,
And
as a kid, we were always telling ghost stories. I mean, I was in
you
Cub
okay?
Scouts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's that kind of piqued my interest, but I had a lot of different experiences growing up. And it wasn't until about, let's say, about 7 years ago that I actually became
Yeah.
serious into investigating. And I've made a lot of friends along the way. And I don't particularly go out and look for UFOs and cryptids and things like that. But I have friends that do, and every story I hear, there's there's always some kind of like when you see Bigfoot, there'll be some haunted place there, and there's UFO sightings there. And then the same thing when some people say UFOs, you've got stories of cryptids, and you've got stories of ghosts, and I mean, it just goes round, round, round. And my question is this a correlation of all of them together? And if
Yeah.
it's maybe other dimensional instead of from another planet.
Yeah, what it really comes down to is that there's a world that we've been taught not to perceive. There's realities that, because this world is so materially based and it's just what you see is what you get sort of thing, the parts of the human being that perceive those other realms have been, I would say, atrophied, have been ignored, been underdeveloped. Occasionally you get a great psychic or visionary medium channel, or an artist that sees these other realms, but we've been dumbed down. And I think we've been dumbed down purposely, not to be too conspiracy apparent, but to keep us in place, to keep us in line. Timothy Leary, the promoter of LSD, said, it's not that LSD is bad for you, it's just they don't want you to think different than the mainstream. That's why psychedelics, which I don't really promote, but if you want to open a door to other realities and see energies, then that's a good place to start, but it's not a good place to end up. But there are these other realms, and we have to be taught to develop this awareness, this sensitivity to energies. I mean, we are energies. The thing that's making these bodies alive is the energy. It's not the body. Something's coming through, so it's spirit or soul or consciousness. These are words that we've had to develop our own subculture in order to understand this. Ghosts and paranormal and Bigfoot, they've been around, but we don't have a context to put these things in. And I'm trying to develop a sense of belonging to all these avenues of thought, because in a way that you're right, they are all related. They're related to the part of us that ignores a bigger picture of reality. So it's time that we start to change. I mean, there's going to be UFO hearings next week on the House floor of Congress. So did you see the headlines there in New York Times? And
I haven't seen that. I've heard about it. I know this came up a few years ago, and it was supposed to finally be disclosed, but it seems like they're beating around the bush about the whole thing.
yeah, they're beating around the bush because they don't know what to say. Part of the reason I wrote this book, because it's not just my book, it's a collection of essays by 12 of the best people in the UFO research field, all giving their points of view, and not one of them totally agrees. I mean, there's not disagreement, but everyone has a different piece of the elephant, I say, So the idea is no one has the whole picture. Nobody knows what's going on. Not the government, not the military, not the experts. Everyone has some aspects of truth. So what we're doing as we move into this new age and this new time is try to formulate a worldview that has all these pieces in place. I mean, where ghosts and Bigfoot and ETs fit in, I think they fit in because they're operating at a higher dimension of consciousness, of awareness. This is what I think. When I didn't believe in ghosts really until someone said, "Oh, this house is haunted," but I needed a place to sleep while I was traveling through Tennessee. Actually, I slept in this house with this girlfriend, and in the middle of the night, I kept being woken up. There was something disturbing, and it didn't scare me, actually. It's just like, go away, and it kept doing it, and eventually, I don't know how I can describe it, but I had the dream or vision of picking this thing up and throwing it out of the house. And it's like, I don't know, it would have freaked me out maybe if I wasn't in a dreamlike state, but I once slept on a burial mound in Hawaii, these ancient kahuna, and I definitely picked up some nightmares from doing that. So energies exist. We are energy, and these things, paranormal, whatever you want to call it, are part of a network of energies that we just have to wake up to and realize this is a reality. They exist. We are psychic. We can remote view. There is Bigfoot out there that are very much aware of our human movements, and they could smell us. This is the other thing about Bigfoot. They smell us. They smell what a human is like miles away. So they are very careful about coming into our field of activity because they know how primitive and violent and sort of reactionary and frightened we are as a species. So they stand clear of us. And I think they live in their own, maybe, dimension in a sense. I think they come in and out of their dimension. And my theory of Bigfoot, and now I've never heard anyone say this, I'll give away my secret about who these beings are. And I don't know if it's true, but you remember people talked about Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. I think Bigfoot are Neanderthals that advanced into because they had bigger brains than Neanderthals, but they were able to activate the bigger quality of their brains and leave Homo sapiens far behind by going interdimensionally. Because when we can actually, and this is what the science of awakening or ascension is about fully activating our consciousness so we can become interdimensional, invisible, parts of other planets, transport, ascend, whatever you want to call it. It's all in this equipment that we haven't figured out how to operate. Yeah, we know the basics, but you could regenerate your whole body, you could disappear, you could fly. I mean, there's cases of that, but we again have been dumbed down not to know who we really are, what we're really capable of, and how we can make life more wonderful. Really, I think this is why we've incarnated here. So I'm all for the work Joe Dispenza is doing, which is active. Joe Dispenza's work.
Not very well.
He's teaching people how to activate the full capacity of their brain. And
Right.
people have been doing remarkable things because of that work and many other work. Deep meditation, Tibetan deep meditations.
Hmm. Buddhists
It's
and things like
all
that.
it's all in here. We got the equipment. We just don't have the operating manual. So that's
Actually,
yeah.
I had a lady on the show once that she was tapping into higher levels of her brain and able to change herself physically,
Did you
like
see that?
bones. I saw the before and after pictures,
Wow.
and it blew my mind. But I mean, able to change her feelings for one, because she was like me, very, went through a bout of depression, but physically changing bone structure and things like this, and then trying to get to a higher frequency. And if you look at all the different cultures and things throughout the world, when there was no communication from one end of the world to the other, and then when you finally had someone go and discover these folks and get their stories, and there's so much similarities. And one of the things they're always talking about is getting to that next world, or that higher vibration. And it makes me wonder if maybe some people see what is perceived as ghosts because it's you're able to tap in somewhat to that higher vibration, and that's what makes you able to see these things.
Absolutely. No, you're exactly right. We have the capacity to change our vibration and start to see auras. People can see
Right.
ghosts. I mean, I've seen orbs of light. Have you seen like little spots of light?
Mm-hmm.
Those are interdimensional. We as a human species are raising our vibration. So we're starting to see these dimensional realities come in. And that's also a part of why the ETs are here. We're waiting for us to raise our vibration. And, of course, there's still war and still starvation, but I think we're becoming a more compassionate planet. That's my hope anyway. And so by being more compassionate, you actually raise the frequency of your body, of your whole vibratory structure. As the more we can tune into each other, the more uplifted we become as individuals and as a species. So I think, yeah, compassion, understanding, they are keys to our evolution as frequencies, as frequent. And I, getting back to your first point, I've seen people who channel and their eyes change color. I haven't seen their whole bodies change, but the channeling of these higher energies that they bring into their body actually does have a physical effect. And I've seen that. So if we all have the same equipment, if that person can do it, we can do it. I know we all can do it, and that's why I mentioned Joe Dispenza because look him up if you get a chance. He's teaching people how to become supernatural. I
Right.
mean, which is naturally super.
Now,
You know.
have you seen that movie Lucy?
Yes, I was thinking about that. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
She activated the full capacity and was able to do these, what we're calling miracles. But the mystics have always done that. There's mystics in every culture, in every religion. There are these tzaddiks, mystics, saints who can do miracles. And they've just tapped into something else. And when we will all wake up to that capacity that we can do miracles, then the world changes. And this show that you're doing is giving people hints that there's something more to reality, and we're part of it. This is not separate from us. This is my big point. It's people tune it out and say, "Oh, that's paranormal. That's an anomaly." That's a ridiculous thing to say. This is part of the bigger world. We each of us are interfacing with. What are dreams? Dreams are doorways into other realities. And they're not just psychology. In some cases, maybe wish fulfillment, whatever you want to call it. But they're also, when I went to Australia and I visited the Aborigines, who are probably the most spiritual people I've ever met, because they talk about giving birth to spirit beings, but their religion is dream time. They don't worship deities or entities or beings. And this one Aborigine told me how to tap into the dream time. So when you're falling asleep, you watch yourself fall asleep, and then you'll be aware, if you could stay conscious enough, of images in your mind starting to come in. And they're probably, sometimes they're faces, sometimes they're voices, but a lot of times they're nothing you had experienced before. You are tapped into the dream time, and the more you can watch the inflow of these, in a way, internal images, but I think they're also coming from outside, then we start to become more lucid. We start to raise our vibration. We get messages. We get downloads. We get, a lot of my inspiration actually for writing or videos comes when I'm just about to fall asleep and, have this idea, and it's a pain in the neck sometimes to wake myself up, but I get myself out but I need to do that. I need to write down those things that come because I know they'll be lost in the morning. So I force myself, write that down, write down that idea, that sequence of events. And, some of my best material comes from in that state. So we have a capacity to tap, maybe that's the alpha state, whatever you want to call it. But it's, when I give my lectures, I say to people this: you have your computer there, and if you didn't know you had an internet, all the information that you have on your computer, you would think was programmed there. Someone put it in there. But if you discover there's this internet, suddenly you have access to information that's not on your computer. Well, that's what our right brain is. I think it's the right brain, the intuitive brain. It has access to the non-local field that's not been part of our programming. And so when we open up to this like intuitive right brain or dream time awareness, we're getting information outside of our immediate environment or outside whatever we've read. And I teach remote viewing, and remote viewing actually shows people how to tap into this non-local mind, because essentially we think we're sitting in these places, we think we're here. We exist in a timeless, spaceless dimension of pure being. This is the source, or this is just my belief. I can't prove this. But we exist in a forever, eternal place of now that's transcending and transcendent of the whole physical, mental, emotional realms that we believe we're in. So essentially, we are non-local. We have a body, but Deepak Chopra says, we're not in the body's in us, meaning that the body or the world, we're not in the world's in us. We exist in this non-local, eternal place where we're fabricating this illusion and thinking it's real because we want to have fun, but we're really eternally in this other place of of being or non-being. Does that
Well,
make sense? Or did I
and
lose you?
no. I think I get what you're talking about, and
Yeah,
um, this is something I've contemplated on, that because spirituality throughout
yeah,
the centuries seems to have been bastardized in one way or another.
right,
Usually it was a political thing. I mean, you know how it was like with Catholicism, whatever the king and the Pope decided was what you're supposed to do is what they instilled in their religion. And
right,
everybody's got all these different ideas, but it's all man-made ideas. We've gotten away from spirituality and more into a religion, which is why I really don't go to church anymore. Is that's not what I want. I want to get closer to God, or the
right,
spirit. And I think that's one reason why things like psilocybin has been introduced in some religions, is because something's gotten lost along the way.
right,
We've
right,
gotten more materialistic. Or we're greedy. We want land, we want homes, we want cars, we want
right,
TVs and computers and all these things, and our minds are always on that kind of stuff and not on spirituality. And I think that's why we've lost that ability to see into another dimension. Now granted, I'm probably one of the biggest skeptics there are. Even though I am in the paranormal field,
mm-hmm,
I have to see the evidence for myself. And
mm-hmm.
that's why I believe in ghosts, because I've seen things you just can't explain. There's some things you might be able to explain away, but I have heard and seen things that you just cannot explain.
Right.
Um, I think part of that has to do with spirituality. I just haven't gotten to that level where I can see
No,
it all the time.
you are totally right, and I mean, as I believe it, and I think Jesus was a great prophet. He didn't start a religion; the religion came after. He just demonstrated some of what was possible for all of us to do, as I think he says, the Son of Man or the Son of God, whatever it is that they say in those religions. Jesus wasn't a Christian. I hate to break that to people. Um, he was just someone who, like Buddha, like someone like Krishna, who came down and said, this is possible for all human beings if you follow the path of righteousness, whatever that means. But it's not religion. Religion is in the way of spirituality. I mean, it contain elements of it, but I think spirituality is just realizing that you are that forever being. Like when you're thinking there, Kyle, what's going on? You're listening. But those thoughts, but who's thinking and who's watching you think? Who's the watcher of the thought? So we're thinking these thoughts, and then there's a part of us that's the watcher, the observer. And that, I think, is the spirit or the eternal sense of self. We're always the watcher. We're always the witness of reality. No matter what's happening or happen or what we're involved in, there's a part of us when we wake up to something. Some people aren't waking up, they're just reactive and they don't have that awareness of awareness. But when we wake up a little bit, we're waking up to the eternal part that's always observing the world around us and involved, but in the world, but not of the world. It's like,
That's in the Bible.
but that's us. That's each of us when we wake up to a paranormal, a spiritual reality. So, what your this is my definition. I don't know if you believe, but what's going on in your mind as you're listening to this and observing is spirit coming through you as energy, as conscious, as awareness. I think it's that simple. We don't have to make a whole religion out of it. It's just that simple.
Well, I think I think the term is it's a binary thing where there is it, there's there's like a one central consciousness with
Right.
every idea that could possibly be dreamed up. It's there,
Yeah.
and we're all linked to it in some way or another, which is why you'll have a guy in say Kansas come up with an invention, but there'll be a guy over in Germany that
Yeah,
comes up with the same invention, and neither one of them have ever talked or even know of each other's existence.
right.
Um,
It's because
I
we're
don't know
in the
that
flow. We're
it's a
in the
thought.
flow of time. Time is moving. Time, what they say, time is the eternal face of the now or something. Anyway, there's flow of consciousness coming through each of us every moment. That's what connects me and you right here and everyone watching this flow of time through the observing mind. This is how I define it. And so that flow is of a particular quality. So people do have similar ideas because it's like the energies of the zeitgeist. That's why things like jazz, which is the kind of abstracted musical compositions, come about the same time as abstract painting and quantum physics and modern dance and so all these realms have a quality of the energies, but it manifests in different ways. So we're moving through a different time now. I mean, look, the last 2 years, the world was more together than ever. Everyone was aware of this virus. I mean, it doesn't matter where you were, but there's a kind of quality of thought that has melted us together in a sense that has made us more unified for better or worse, but we're part of this flow. And now as we come out of it, things are emerging. I mean, I think more about UFOs, more about paranormal in a sense, which is not paranormal. It's just a physics that is outside what we call our everyday science. There's nothing really paranormal. It's just stuff we don't understand. It's like giving your cell phone to a guy who lived 200 years ago. It's like, wow, that's paranormal. How do you talk to everyone in the world anytime you want? How do you explain that? So we need to graduate and to what's really going on. And this is what my argument about the UFO thing is. We need to get the government to come forward, lay it all out on the table, saying this is what we know, this is what we don't know, this is who's here, and then the world, I think, will come into a sort of more mature, harmonic place. That's my hope anyway. I'm not sure if that will happen, but as we push my people, the group that I'm associated, I mean, the group of people at conferences and all that, there's no formalized group, but as we talk about this phenomena, people are waking up. People are saying, really, there's more to reality. We're not, you know, the science today says that human beings, life on earth is an accident and we are a freak of nature and life is meaningless and it may or may not exist anyplace else because we haven't found it. So because we haven't found it, it can't exist. It doesn't exist. So that's how ignorant science is. Science has given us great things too, but we need to change that around and say, no, we're not part of a dead universe. This is what science is saying. Yeah, life somehow came from non-life. But no, we are part of a living universe. The universe is alive, is my belief. Everything is alive. We didn't emerge from dead things. We emerged from a greater thought, a greater consciousness, whatever you want to call it, without becoming dogmatic. We emerged as these beings, as these wave function energy beings, not from protoplasms being hit by an electrical storm in the middle of some amino acid mix that somehow formed the first microbe. We descended from a higher realm. So involution is one term in spiritual. We lower the density of the higher thought into density, into this matter, to give life to the earth plane. And then as we come up, as we become more aware, we evolve back to the source. I can't prove that. I mean, that's just what, I don't know if it makes sense, but that's how I explain it.
Well,
And because that,
I, I think it's egotistical to think that we are somehow special and the only ones in this
right.
whole universe or the whole galaxies and whatnot. And it's
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
Not
if it
only
happened here, it's got to
egotist,
happen somewhere else.
it's yeah, what's here is everywhere. There's nothing that special about the earth. I mean, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, these are byproducts of every solar, output. So it's like there's what's here is everywhere. Life is everywhere. Look at how it grows between the sidewalks on the street. I mean, life is an emergent property of existence. Life, so those laws of entropy don't really apply. It says that closed systems run down because they're closed. Well, there is no closed systems. Systems are open. There's no isolated effect. There is, in a sense, no cause and effect, which is what is the kind of formula for Newtonian science. You burn fuel and that pushes your car forward. Those concepts were developed 400 years ago by Isaac Newton. And now, don't you think we should update our physics to like more of a modern time? That maybe it's not just a matter of burning gasoline to propel our vehicles forward. Maybe there's some ways to manipulate time space so we're pulled through whatever this thing is. This is what some of the physicists are thinking about. When you have enough energy or mass, you fold time space, because time space is a property that exists around mass, whatever that mass is. This is Einstein's original theory,
Right.
that gravity doesn't exist. Gravity is just the indent of mass on the matrix. I mean, I don't fully understand it, but there's other ways of existence, and we've been stuck because of corporations. These
Mhm.
ETs, whoever's coming here in these ships, they're not filling up their gas tank to get here, right?
Yeah, something's got to be propelling them, and it's some kind of energy we don't understand yet.
That's right. Because it's based on a physics we have yet to kind of come to terms with. It's based on a science that is outside our scope of understanding. We have to grow up and consider, what is quantum physics? Quantum physics is an alternative to Newtonian physics, mainstream physics, but we don't really understand it. We don't understand how, one of the things in quantum physics says consciousness affects reality. It says this because the double slit experiment was the classic. They were trying to find out is light a wave or a particle. So they did this experiment. They shot photons through two slits, and when people were looking at the results of the two slits, it was a particle. But then they shot those photons and nobody was looking until the end. So while they were observing it, it was a particle. But if they shot the photons through slits and no one observed it, they came back and they saw it was a wave. So when you're looking at it, it's a particle. When you're not looking at it, it's a wave. Now, isn't that just blew everyone away? That's documented. So what is it about the observer, or they call the observer effect, that actually affects reality as we know it? There's something that we are, consciousness, that influences the world. Like you can tell if someone's like talking about you or sending you bad vibes, or good vibes for that matter. You can feel it, because thoughts are things, thoughts are energies, and energies affect reality. So you take this idea of quantum physics and the observer effect, and the observer affecting reality, because when you're watching something, you're collapsing the wave function, this is quantum, into matter. If you're not observing it, it's all energy. If you turn your back, the world's just energy. There's no one. There's no definition. There's no collapsing of the wave, because it's all wave. But as soon as you look at it, as soon as you name it, as soon as you recognize it, you've made it into something.
Right.
But if we can stay in the abstract, Think about that. If we can function in the world, I call it apprehension versus comprehension. If you're more right brain versus the left brain wants to say, okay, this is a table, that's a desk, that's a microphone. But the right brain is more fluid. It's looking at patterns. So if we can be more right brained, if that's a word, and not collapse the wave function, we tap into a greater field of non-local possibilities, and we start to, I call quantum thinking, where we look at possibilities and not results.
Mm.
And this is what quantum computing is. Quantum computing calculates the probabilities and not the end result. So one thing I talk about is like if you're rolling a set of dice and it lands, it's only one answer. It's either 7 or 11, whatever. But if you're calculating the probabilities while you're rolling those dice, while it's in your hands, there's 36 possible combinations of results. So if you're calculating probabilities, you get a bigger overview without looking at the results. So everything's in what they're called superposition. The probabilities where any one of those combinations of landings is possible. So quantum computers calculate the probabilities and not the finality. So when you calculate probabilities, you have a lot more choices basically in the world. So instead of saying, oh, it's this way or that way. I know it's a little vague what I'm talking about, but it's we're thinking more abstractly about reality when we talk about quantum right brain awareness as energy versus we're energy, not matter, we're wave, not particle, we're right brain, not left brain, we're intuitive, not dogmatic. So all these things are bridging a kind of logic we've been trapped in, we've been only left brain, the world is this way, this is my religion, this is right. But if we become more fluid and include probabilities and superpositions, we become more whole brain and we become closer to how I think the ETs are thinking about reality.
So, do you have any proof in your book of the existence of aliens or UFOs?
Well, all you have to, I mean, proof in the book. I have people's story. There's, if you ever go out with night vision goggles and look at the sky in a kind of isolated area, you'll see things that can't be explained that are not just satellites. So, proof, well, the government has now come out and said, yes, we have seen there's things in the sky we do not know. There's reports of bodies. I have my own experiences. Proof, yeah, I mean, we need proof. This is why the government, whoever they are, that have bodies and craft, and they've said, or people inside the government said, yes, we have crashed retrievals, it's called. And I say it's time to bring that all out and get that proof, not just to the American people, but to the world, because when we get that, we go to another level of awareness. We as a species graduate and say, yeah, you're right, there's more to this world than we've thought of. And so that's, we don't need that, but for some people, they already have their own experiences as proof. But I need that because, if you've had some experience, there's still some slight doubt. Did I make it up? Did I imagine it? Even if you've seen a Bigfoot, why are they so elusive? Did you really see it? Was that just a shadow in the woods? Have you ever seen a Bigfoot?
I haven't. Now, I've seen some things that were pretty darn crazy, but as
What have
far
you
as,
seen?
well, I can only describe it as looking like a fairy. And I was told by a psychic that I have one that follows me when I go on these investigations.
Wow.
And we've caught it on camera a few times. And I've argued it's just a moth that's caught the light just right. But if you look at it, it doesn't look like any kind of bug I've ever seen.
Wow. I'd love to
And
see that. You have a picture?
I will send you the video, and you just
Wow.
I put it up on the internet just to get people's opinion on it.
I
But
want to see it.
the same
So
thing has been in several different videos, and I've got two of them that I can send you.
I definitely want to see that because so is that so you asked me about proof. Is that proof? Because I mean, I would say it is. I would say
I
trust it.
I think that's possible. I mean, like I said, I'm very skeptical, and but when you see in one of the videos, it actually flies through my body. You can see it go through my body, and I have slowed the video down to make sure it wasn't just going around me. You could see it fly
Did
into
you,
my back
did
and
you
out of my
feel any,
chest.
any? Did you feel anything when?
I didn't feel anything.
Right. Well,
The
maybe it's an orb. Have you seen pictures of
I've
orbs?
and I believe that there are orbs out there. I just
Yeah.
don't think it's not as prevalent as people make it out to be. It's not something you see all the time.
Yeah.
When you have something that's glowing on its own and almost pulsating, and it's not dust.
Yeah.
I've seen dust particles, and I can tell the difference between the two. I'm just, I don't know, man. It's made me
Well,
believe a lot more than what I used to, but once again, I'm skeptical.
I know it's great to be skeptical, but what if you just suspend that for a moment and say, maybe that was a being. We don't have to call it a fairy or call it whatever you want, but maybe it was something that is interdimensional that's following me around. I think when we just consider that instead of saying, no, it must be something explainable, when we consider that level of awareness, we open up to other things and other things come into our field because we're just open to, and I think you're actually a really open person. I think you,
I'm very open. I'm listening
yeah.
to everybody's ideas and ideals, and everybody's got their own way of thinking. I'd like to be open to say, hey, it's possible that I'm wrong, or
Well, it's not about right or wrong. It's just how broad is our awareness. I think it comes down to awareness. Like I sometimes see like these little purple lights just around certain people, and it's like, oh, maybe that is a sign that that person's on a certain higher level, and I believe it. I mean, it's not that I know. Belief is a choice. You realize that? Belief is make believe. What do you want to make believe? So, like, oh yeah, you believe in the existence of this and that. Until you know, it's all make believe. And so that's where okay, what do I choose to believe? It's a choice. Do I choose? I choose to believe, like what you're telling me is a being that's visiting you and probably part of your energy field. I can't prove that. I mean, so I
the
don't know that because it's not my experience.
the funny thing is the first time that it happened, we caught on a recording a voice say that was me.
Wow, now you're giving me chills.
When you
Well,
watch the video, you're gonna be like, what?
well, who said that?
Exactly. Who was it that said that? Was it the spirit that we thought was there? Was it the whatever was following me?
Well,
I
I have
just
to tell you, Kyle, that's proof for me. I don't need any more proof. You proved it to me that that's something that is real. You can't agree that it's real. It's a reality to it. Whether
there's
it's
something. I can say that it is something.
and other people see it and it's captured on film
It's
or
captured on
video.
video. Yeah.
Right. So I think the universe, I'm just guessing, is talking to you and saying, Kyle, there's more where that came from. And it's not that you have to believe anything ridiculous or stupid. It's just like, what's your experience? Are we going to deny our experiences? Like, I think I had a dream where these ETs came to me and they gave me this little creature in my hands to hold. And I said, this is weird. I mean, it was like a little hybrid offspring or something, but and I've talked to other people that said, yeah, they've had similar things. I mean, I had that dream. It was a dream state because I believe when these beings appear to you, they're appearing in a higher state of consciousness, which intersects with your dreams. Um, so I believe that is what happened to me, and that was my experience. And I've never forgotten that because, you wake up most of the mornings and what was that dream that we just had? But some dreams stay with you. And I don't think those are dreams. I think those are altered states of experience that are just happening in a slightly shifted level of vibration.
Mhm. Well, unfortunately, we have run out of time,
Oh my God, I'm just getting
but
going because
I want to see if you want to come back because there's a lot more
definitely.
things I want to discuss with you.
Well, read the book too, because then we'll go deeper into some of that stuff. But I just want to say I appreciate what you're doing because you're
Thank you.
helping put out new ideas and that's shifting vibration. I think that plants new neural nets, as Joe Dispenza, of possibilities. And when we have new connections of awareness, new ideas, new adventures start to unfold. And so we're moving into a really exciting time. So thank you.
Great. Oh, I appreciate it. So, where can people find your book?
Oh, yeah. My book is on Amazon, Making Contact by Alan Steinfeld. It's in Barnes& and Noble. Go to a Barnes& and Noble. Hey, say, hey, do you have this book? Because if when you order it on Barnes& and Noble in a physical store, it's good for me. But you can get a discount if you go to Amazon. Um, you could, let's see, maybe if people wanted to email me, I could give them a little sample. Go to newrealities at earthlink.net. I also have a Making Contact series that I'm doing. Can I just pull up a
Sure.
little flyer from that? This is a series I'm doing called the Making Contact series where I interview some of the best people in the field. So go to makingcontact.com. But it's 5 episodes starting May 19th, and we skip 2 weeks. So I have Linda Moulton Howe, Whitley Strieber, Nick Pope, Danny Sheehan, JJ and Desiree Hertog, Mary Rugg. I have like people I consider the real authorities in the field. And some of these people have written chapters in my book. But we're going to go a deep dive into what's really going on with UFOs, who's here, where they're from, and why they're here based on expert testimony. So go to makingcontactseries.com and you will be able to register, sign up, and join us. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Thank you. Do you have social media?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I have Facebook, Alan Steinfeld. Oh, and my YouTube channel. That's New Reality. It's youtube.com/New Realities. Become a subscriber there. I'm on Instagram, Alan Steinfeld. I'm not doing Twitter that much. Mostly Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Find New Realities on YouTube, and that's really where social media is just an endless sport, and I'm just focusing on one aspect. I'm just focusing on the YouTube aspect. Otherwise, it's tireless. It's endless. You can never do enough social media.
I know that's right. I'm supposed to post every day, and I just can't do
I
it.
know. It's so I just focusing on my YouTube because that gives me the most leeway to do videos and other things. So, but yeah, you can
I will.
contact me anywhere.
I will put those links in the description so people can go to it. But
Oh,
I am
and I'll
so
make one more offer for your viewers. Email
okay.
me at newrealities@earthlink.net and I'll email you back just the introduction to this book. So just put introduction in the subject matter. Say you've heard it on Kyle's show, and I'll give you a little.
Well, thank you. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Good.
Well, I do want you to come back, so let's
Eh,
keep in touch. And
Let's do it in a in a month, maybe June or July. Okay.
that hey, that would be great. How about we do it about the time your series starts playing?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it sometime in June then. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
All right. Thanks.
Well, again, thank you, and I want to thank everyone that's tuned in. If you're new to the show, please subscribe, and I want you to come back. If you are a regular, thank you for your support. It's because of you we do what we do. So until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. May I add, keep your mind open. God bless and peace.
Po boy.